And welcome back to the channel. Most importantly, to each a good day. Well, we're just continuing on with our new project here, our 2018 Pursuit Charger, otherwise known as a ex-police car. And in the last video you saw us remove a lot of the aftermarket wiring and just kind of do some cleanup work in reference to the battery tray and things of that nature. And as you can see, we're just in the process of putting this battery tray back in. So we got our base plate, our bracket, and we've got our fuse, our distribution panel here in the backs, clipped back into the rear of our tray. Now, as we were taking the old battery out and kind of cleaning underneath of it, we actually found some of the pieces that we needed for this tray. Initially, I thought the little hold down bracket, which is this bracket right here that holds the battery, helps hold the battery down to the tray, was missing. And actually, whoever put the battery in here last actually had this along with its mounting bolt. Basically just had the battery just sitting on top of this to where you couldn't see it. It was kind of down here in the corner, just being sat on by the battery. So the good news is we didn't have to order that. We found it. Now, depending on which battery you go with and which charger you have, you're either going to have this shorter bracket, which is meant for an H8 battery, which is what we're going to put in here. The police variants of this charger require a little bit bigger battery, and for the reasoning that you probably saw in the previous video, you noticed they had a lot of aftermarket wiring in here in order to support the systems that they need in order to have access to, and all those systems do require power. So now we're going to go back in with an H8 because, you know, why not? You could also put an 8.7 in here if you're not going to run all the extra electrical items that a typical police car would have. Also, if you have a charger such as this that has the 8.7, you'll probably notice this in your battery tray that you actually have two positions here for the hold down bracket. That one would be for the H8, and the further one up would be for the H7. So you could, if you had to replace your battery and wanted to go with one that was slightly bigger, a little bit more cold cranking amps, you could put the H8 in there, but be mindful that this bracket is shorter. If you have the 7, you have the battery hold down bracket that's a little bit longer, so you'd have to actually buy this shorter one and replace it. Now I'll put up, it's kind of hard to see the part number. I actually had to take a picture of this and zoom in. It's a little hard to read on this aluminum, but I will have a part number of what, at least what's written on this part in the description of this video below. So what we're going to work on is getting the battery back in here, making the positive connection that you see here back to our rear distribution panel, and of course getting the battery in here, and then we'll start doing some I should say power up testing. We won't start as of yet. I want to power the vehicle up and do a quick scan and see if we see all the modules. And as long as we can see all the modules, then we'll go for a startup and see if that power issue that I commented on a few videos ago when we originally took delivery of the vehicle is still there. But to recap what that was that the vehicle would start run and drive, but on occasion, sometimes when you start off from a stop and other times while you're driving, the dash would just go completely blank, like the 90% of the vehicle just lost power, and within a couple seconds it would come back. Now I think that may have been mostly contributed to just having a completely destroyed battery back here that really wasn't worth anything, not holding a charge, so on and so forth, because these chargers are known for having a very, very picky electrical system where even if you have a good alternator up front but you have a weak battery back here, you'll still see a lot of weird electrical anomalies. Anyway, that's the theory. We'll put that theory here to a test. So we're going to finish putting this, we're going to finish getting the battery back in, get it all mounted back down, and then when I'll bring you back, we'll have a scan tool plugged in up front and we'll start doing a little bit of testing. So I'll bring you right back. One moment. And welcome back. So just want to show you that you can see that we've got our battery in there, and you can see an H8 battery takes up nearly all of that tray. But down there below, you can see we've got our hold down in place. We're just getting ready to put the bolt in. Now having that battery in there just block a lot of that access. If you have trouble getting the bolt down in there, you can just put a little piece of paper towel inside the socket, put your bolt in there, and that'll help hold your bolt until you can get it started down in there. Now, one thing that comes with these batteries, and yes, this is a Walmart AGM H8, and yes, I know it's a Walmart battery. Say what you will, but there's only a handful of manufacturers that make all the batteries and just put different labels on them. So, like I said, Walmart has a pretty good pricing on their batteries compared to most everyone else, at least in this economy. But on all these batteries, regardless of the manufacturer, you see you've got like a pin there to block the vent. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to insert that pin on this side here and block this vent, which should then force everything to go out the vent on the opposite side, and then we'll plug that tube in here, and that should help keep from further eroding that battery tray and, you know, wiring and everything else on that side of the battery. So again, you're just going to continue to get this all hooked in, get our strap and everything reattached, and then I'll bring it back. One moment. And welcome back. So you can see we got our battery connected, we got signs of life in the vehicle, we got our trunk lights on, and when I measured the amperage, we were pulling about 6 amps initially on initial battery connect, and now we're down to about 3.5 to 4 amps, which isn't horrible. Again, the vehicle is awake for the first time in a while and hasn't fully gone to sleep yet. We should have another yeah, let's get that light out from behind there, because that is an old school incandescent. It's going to get warm. So we see got a couple of lights on here, which will explain a lot for the amperage draw. And what I like to do when I'm connecting these for the first time, especially when we've done a lot of work like we have on this one, is just to put an amp clamp on it and make sure we're not seeing like an excessively high current draw, which may lead to a problem. Now, in the event of an issue, what we're going to do is just have our 10mm at the ready, and we're just going to disconnect right here, and that will disconnect the battery negative from the entire vehicle, thus breaking the circuits. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to bring you right back, and then we're going to plug a scan tool into it, turn the ignition on, and just see if we can do a sweep of all the internal modules. So one moment. And welcome back. So you can see that we've got you propped up, logged in, and I should say zoomed into the scan tool. We've got the vehicle on at this point. The ignition's in the run position, but obviously the engine's not running, and we've just unlocked the secure gateway. So I'm going to show you the dash here. You can see our dash, and now it does say that we have 2 tires that are low. We did fill those, but we haven't driven the vehicle, so those haven't reset yet. So let's get back down here to the scan tool and see what we can scan. Now, it did identify the vehicle, which is good. And like I said, you can see that we just got done unlocking the secure gateway. And now what we're going to do, let's just do a system scan. Sees our PCM, says it's scanned. And those gray modules mean, those gray items either mean the vehicle isn't equipped with that module, or it can't see that module. All right, perfect. So let's go to, tell you what, let's back up one. And what I want to do is do a smart detection now. Now that we know that it can see modules, now we're just going to have it scan to see if it can come back with any codes. Yeah, it's beeping right now and flashing the ABS system because it's in the process of scanning it. I've seen that happen before. And you can see that we've got a lot of codes in these modules. Now, some of those may be stored. I have a theory that a lot of those are probably low voltage codes from when the system was having electrical issues earlier and the battery was dying, but we'll see once this scan gets done. A lot of modules in this vehicle. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and just do a report on this because I'd like to save this. And let's see what we got. So I've seen that before. Cylinder deactivation circuit. What that is, it's going out there and taking a look at the MDS solenoids in order to cut the V8 down to a 4-cylinder on occasion when you're driving and it's having an issue with that circuit. Either the wiring or one of the solenoids itself has failed, which again in this case we're not really concerned with, because one of the first things we're going to do when we get to it is actually turn the MDS system off. But you can see a lot of these are stored. So battery voltage circuit, lost communication, panel control, illumination control, all stored. Low tire pressure, again, that will clear once we drive it. You see battery voltage, all of this is battery voltage, all related to when we had a bad battery. So really the only active code that it looks like we have right now that may need some work done to it is that cylinder deactivation. But again, as long as that MDS solenoid isn't stuck in the active position, in other words, meaning trying to kill a cylinder that it shouldn't, I'm just going to plug in a scan tool here the Diablo tool here at some point, and what we'll do is we're just going to turn the MDS system off for the time being, because we are going to do an engine swap and an engine buildup in this vehicle. Okay, so we've got that saved. We could do the same thing by going into system list as well, and it's a little bit quicker, a little bit easier to kind of see it in the system list. But again, we only have that one circuit. So what I'm going to do is pause you, get you rearranged, and then what we're going to do is go ahead and start the vehicle. I'm going to pull some PIDs up on the scan tool when we do that. And when we're running the vehicle, I want to see a couple things. I want to see, well, actually one thing primarily. One, we're going to be scanning for any additional codes that may come up, and two, I want to make sure that we're seeing charging voltage. So I'm going to look for an alternator PID, as far as the control, the field control from the PCM, and then we're going to look and see if the IBS sensor, the intelligent battery sensor on this vehicle has a PID, and if it does, we'll pull it up, because again, I want to make sure that we're getting charging voltage back there. We should be seeing that this vehicle was kind of running itself mostly on a completely just destroyed battery, but you know, then again, and we can also look for that value, you know, on the dashboard itself, as far as just making sure that we're charging. As a matter of fact, if we go into, just to show you that here, it may be in the PCM. And it's going to be in a read data stream. And let's see what we got for battery. Okay, so nothing on battery within the PCM. And what it would do, it may be under volts. Oop, and it crashed out. Lovely. Okay, so let me get this reset and I'll bring you back. One moment. And welcome back. So we can see we got you stood up. We're back into our scan tool, and we're looking at the intelligent battery sensor measured voltage. So this is the measured voltage at the rear of the battery that's in that sensor that's plugged into the negative battery post. So right now we're showing about 12.61 volts. We do have our engine in the run position, but obviously the engine's not running. Now again, on this particular charger, and I'm not sure if all chargers do this, or it may be unique to this being a pursuit/police vehicle, is that in order to read the PCM and get the VIN number out, you actually, on this one, I actually have to have it in the run position. The accessory position doesn't get me that. I can see all the other modules in the accessory position, but not the PCM. But with that being said, let's see here. Let's get into vehicle. There's our vehicle info. Let's get into, should have one in here for battery. There we go. So you can see, we see the same thing on the dash. So let's go ahead and give this a crank. There we go. Little bit of a knock that you could hear from the lifter there until we got oil pressure. It could be a lifter knock, it could also be a rod knock, to be completely honest with you, and I'll show you why here in a bit. But you can see there we got 14.2 volts of charging voltage. Also, that's reflected in our scan tool, 14.26, 14.28 volts of charging voltage. So that is excellent. And what we're going to do while we check out a couple other things, we're going to go ahead and let this do another scan now that we're up and running. Actually, let's do this first. The initial problem that we had with this vehicle is, even if idle right here like we are in the parking lot, I'm sorry, in the driveway, even if we dropped it in gear, what would happen is the entire electrical system internally would reset, maybe occasionally come back up, and you'd hear the engine stutter a little bit. So let's see if having all the aftermarket items out of here and a nice fresh battery in the trunk with a good secure connection has eliminated that. So let's just see if we can go into drive. And we can. Can we roll forward a little bit? Yes, we can. Can we go in reverse? Yes, we can. And you can see our rear backup camera came on. Let's back up a little bit. There we go, beautiful. I don't want to go back too much because we got a vehicle behind us. Let's go back in the park. So awesome. So that did take care of that issue, because again, before you could just sit here in the driveway like we are now, and as soon as you dropped it in gear, you know, all heck would break loose. So now we've got that done, let's go into smart detection and go ahead and let it scan all of our modules again and see if we've got any new codes, because you'll notice on the dash there we do have the check engine light, which is on, which is more than likely on because of the cylinder deactivation circuit error. And our TPMS light's gonna be on because you would have to drive the vehicle and get over a certain speed for those TPMS sensors to clear. Even though we've got the tires fully inflated at this point, they won't clear until they run their checks. And that beeping that you hear, see all that flashing? That's the scan tool accessing the ABS module to do its scan. And you can see it's calmed down and it's moved out of that module. It happens every time it goes to scan that ABS module. And while that's scanning, let's take a look at a couple other things. So that's our all-wheel drive system. 100% oil life. This does have some nice clean oil in it, so somebody just did an oil change, probably trying to get rid of that clatter on startup. But you can see we got about 53 psi oil pressure, which is actually fairly good considering we're just sitting here at idle. That's actually fairly decent. That's well within spec. But we know that we're going to be doing an engine swap / engine buildup in this vehicle, so even if it does have lifter and or any kind of lower end issues, it's, you know, no harm no foul, at least for us. So we can see we got a lot of codes here. Let's see what we got. Now we got that cylinder deactivation circuit. We knew about that one. Again, we'll more than likely go in here with a Diablo system once we can get an unlocked PCM. And yes, this is a 2018, so it means we're going to have to get an unlocked PCM to do this. But we can go in there and just turn off the MDS system. Besides, when we do the engine bailout anyway, we're going to turn it off. But you can see everything else is lost communication because of, again, low battery voltage and or battery voltage codes. All those are stored at this point. We got low tire pressure, but we know that'll go away once we can drive the vehicle above a certain speed for a certain distance. Stored, and everything else is coming back normal. So awesome. So that does look like that took care of the issue. Having all that aftermarket wiring in here may or may not have contributed to the issue. Definitely having a bad battery in the trunk with a kind of iffy connection on it would have definitely contributed to the issues that we were seeing here. And let's just go back to vehicle info. Let's go back to our tire pressure screen because it's nice and colorful. Again, now we sent, again, just to reiterate, we have filled these, but again, those won't clear obviously until we drive it again. So what we're going to do at this point, we're going to cut this be a little bit shorter video than normal, because I'm going to go through next and more than likely put all our panels and stuff back together, things of that nature, and that should take care of it. Now when we bring you back, what we'll do is decide what we want to do with the center console. I've got some, let me just shut the engine off just so it's not running and we're not having to talk over it. All right, beautiful. So right now you notice that center plate that we had 3 of those cigarette lighter type adapters on it. I've got some adapters that actually come out to some standard USB ports. So we'll probably get 1, 2, or if not all 3 replaced with just some adapters that automatically come out to USB, just so that we don't have to plug an adapter in. But we're going to decide what we want to do to this. We'll also see about getting a AWD port installed in the trunk, and it's going to be the same install process that you may have seen on our Hellcat video. It's put out by Automotive, and it's going to plug into the star connectors that are in the trunk, but it will give us an AWD port that doesn't go through the secure gateway. So when we're getting ready to do things like, you know, read ignition keys or program ignition keys or make feature changes to the vehicle, then we'll be able to do that without having to come up here and disconnect the secure gateway to do it. But that'll all be in a future video. And then we'll play around with this little holder right here. If you know what this is for, then you know. As this is a YouTube video, I'm not going to say what goes here, but you know, knowing this is an ex-police vehicle, I think you've got the idea. Now, we don't really need this release to work, but I would like to see if we can get it to work and have it triggered off a button in the center console. I just think that would be cool. That's just me playing around. Like I said, we'll try it. I did look up the schematics for this. It does receive 12 volts, but in the current revisions, it requires a specific signal from a timer to be sent to it. But I can't find this revision. This revision may not be made anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to just try to put 12 volts to this and just see if it will cause that little securing mechanism to undo itself. But anyway, I'm rambling. I do apologize. The good news is it took care of our initial electrical issue with the work we've done thus far. You heard the clatter on startup. That's to be expected with as many high mileages, with the mileage and hours and everything that we have on this engine, and the amount of idle time. It's well into the 6 digits for the miles. The idle hours are well into the thousands. Again, it was an old police vehicle, and if you know one thing about these Hemis, they don't like their idle time a lot, at least excessive amounts of it. But again, no harm, no foul. I think we're going to go in with a built-up 6.4 liter at this point. I've seen a couple of comments in the last video, and thank you for that. And it looks like the 6.4 liters kind of has a lead at this point. With that being said, I've rambled on enough. I want to thank you immensely. If you haven't considered subscribing to the channel, please consider doing so. And with that being said, I will bring you back for the next one. Thank you much. Bye.